I am happy to have Miss Khadijah Adams here today on the To Be Blunt podcast. It's going to be a great one. She is the owner and founder of Girl Get That Money.
That's
It
right.
is a foundation and organization that's really designed to help women just really get a really grip on an understanding of business, how to become powerful, and how to learn about investments and how to get themselves involved with business in different facets. I'm always excited when I meet other entrepreneurs who are not afraid to, take a step in the world of business and actually become really successful at it. So I'm definitely looking forward to speaking with you, Miss Khadijah. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, James. How are you? And thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm doing blessed. Another great day. Can't complain. I know that the powers that be, as far as COVID-19, would love to get us down, but I think the individuals like us and those that are listening to us understand how to keep our spirits up in all different ways.
That's right. Absolutely. You gotta find some ways. And guess what? A blunt goes a long way during this time.
Tell me about it. It has done wonders as far as relieving a lot of stress on the unknowns that exist right now in our society, in our culture, and our communities.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, Khadijah, let's get right into just a couple of topics. I see that personally, I see that you have a serious passion towards driving success, not only for women, just for individuals in general, and
Yeah.
not only women of color, which is one of your specifics, but also just everyone, just helping and having that passion of driving success and learning to understand how to gain generational wealth. Can you discuss a little bit on how you discuss a little bit about your business background? What allowed you to take that step in entrepreneurialism, and how did you blend all that into entering the cannabis industry?
Absolutely. And thank you for asking. So I've been an entrepreneur since 1997, James. I found out early on that I was allergic to bosses. Um, and how often do we find out that, when we're allergic to something that we have to literally stay away from it, right? And at the time, I was raising four sons by myself, of course, with the help of God. But, I just really just got tired of people telling me what to do, what time to wake up, what time to go to sleep, what time to come in, what time to go to lunch, and what time to take a break. And I decided I was just going to, take that leap. And I've had an opportunity and privilege to, start my own company, to sell companies, to lose companies, to, to trial and error and learn along the way. And, during that time, I learned some things. I was able to grow a multi-million-dollar corporation. And guess what? Lost that corporation after having it, nurturing it for 10 and a half years. Real estate crashed in 2007. And man, I lost everything. Okay.
Mm.
Lost everything. Went from a seven-figure income all the way down to $6,000. But I tell you what, I took that last 6,000 and I invested it in a totally different industry. And in about 3 months, flipped that 6,000, made 120,000, and then just started duplicating that. 3 months, made another 120, started duplicating that until I had a chain of computer stores. And then Colorado decided that they wanted to legalize cannabis for adult use. And I just knew it was going to change the industry, And so I decided to sell everything in my possession. And except for my clothes, my cell phone, my computer, and my car. And I drove from Sugar Land, Texas to Aurora, Colorado, got there in March of 2014. And I began to get involved with the community, by the advice of two young ladies that I had met who were heavily involved in the community and also into the politics in Denver, Colorado, and just began to re-educate myself and began investing in the industry, small level, but made money and said, I can really help people make money. And then I formed a company with me and a friend, got an investor, and formed Marijuana Investment and Private Retreat. Started working with accredited investors and started teaching people, connecting investors to viable investment opportunities. Then I sold that company and started working for C.E. Hutton. And then I just recently resigned from C.E. Hutton from the daily operations. I'm still the VP, still on the board, still one of the super majority partners, but I'm not in their daily operations. And then I foreign girl get that money because I get investors on the frequent. And so I want to teach women and other minorities in this industry how to get that money, James.
Let me say something. From 1997, you did not look back. You kept it moving and you kept it going.
Yes.
One thing I can see in your story that I want a lot of listeners to catch wind of, we'll talk about a lot of business opportunities and certain business knowledge during our interview. But one thing I think is important for listeners to know is you got to have staying power. You got to be able to stay in the game and not give up. You got to be able to work through failures. Actually, you got to expect failure and be able to actually persevere through that. And that's what I hear when I hear your story.
Oh, man, look, let me tell you something. In 2016, not only did I lose it all, man, look, I went through a divorce. I lost everything. My team. Okay, I made some horrible mistakes. I could have crawled up in a ball in the fetal position. I could have quit. I could have, and mind you, I'm not going to lie to you. I did call my mama. I did call my grandmother. You understand me? I did cry. Okay. I even lost a couple of mentors along the way. You understand? I did. But guess what? I woke up the very next day and I put one foot in front of the other. I held my head up high. I knew people were talking about me. I knew I had haters. But I said, you know what? If I didn't have haters, I wouldn't be doing something right.
Okay.
I said, guess what? I'm going to give them something to talk about. Y'all keep talking. I know y'all fans too. So y'all just keep on talking, right?
I love it, Khadijah. Now, let me ask you, we already know that it's already hard for entrepreneurs just in general. Yeah. But as a woman of color, African-American woman trying to raise the ranks on her own as an entrepreneur. And then let's add another caveat, entering into the cannabis industry, which, is well known to sell to us, but not so much known to allow us into the business end. Can you name some of the challenges that you probably faced, from 1990s, from the time you actually entered the cannabis industry or your entire entrepreneurial pursuit? Just some of the challenges you face as being a woman of color within the industry and entrepreneurial.
I don't know if you know this saying, but back in the day, we used to have a saying, "Woo wee, man." Woo wee. That's a loaded question. So let me just say this: as an African American woman, if I tell you my experience from 1997 to present day, we'd be here all day. So let me just start with the cannabis space in 2014 as an African American woman. First of all, there were very few African Americans in the space that were showing themselves in the space in 2014. Okay, and that was primarily because of the stigma of cannabis, right? And African Americans and what has transpired, right? And so we weren't visible. We didn't want to be seen in the industry because of the stigma. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so there was only a handful, if that. I would be on panels, where I would be not only the only African American, but sometimes the only woman. In fact, sometimes the only other woman would be a white woman, Cheryl Schumann. Okay, at that time. Okay. And so for a long time, I would look out in the audience, hoping and praying that I would see somebody who looked like me. And it would be strange, James, because when I did finally see someone that looked like me, I'd be up there like, hey, hey, there you go. What's going on? It was like we would find each other, like we would search each other out. And it was sad because there were many of occasions when I would even walk on stage and I would personally hear some of the people on the stage say, well, what is she doing here? Or have y'all checked her out? And I've even had an investor to say, well, I would like to see your credentials to verify if I was even accredited, you see, but didn't ask everybody else for their credentials.
Yeah.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
You see, so those are the challenges, right? They want to verify. Or what about the investors that I've introduced to some of them? If they were African-American investors, guess what? The first thing they ask me is, or the first thing they say is, we're going to have to do a criminal background check. But when I introduce the white
Nothing like
that question or that statement never comes up. Now, I'm not saying that they never do the background check. I'm just saying that that conversation doesn't come up.
Yep. Not a topic.
I've never had it come up to this day with a white investor that I've introduced, or even a Latino investor that I've introduced to the industry. Okay. And so those are the challenges that I face, is the fact that the stigma is so strong. You understand? Mm-hmm. And it's so strong because of the disproportionate, the arrest. We're arrested at disproportionate rates, right? It's crazy. Even now.
I totally agree, Khadijah. I think that, we still have a long way to go. There are entrepreneurs that are entering this industry of color that are wondering if this is the right industry to get involved in because of the stigma and because of other issues, and wondering, can they actually reach success in this industry? So my question to you, I just want to ask Khadijah, is, for all new entrepreneurs that are considering entering this industry, the actual investors, they actually have built up capital, they actually have the means to enter the industry, but are questioning, especially if they look like you and I. What advice do you have for them to actually want to get involved, and what realities do you have for them to want to be able to deal with certain challenges?
Absolutely. The very first thing that they want to do is their research, their diligence, before even approaching anyone. Okay. Before they approach anyone at all, they want to do their research. They want to know what it is that they want to do before they even get involved in the industry. And here's the thing: if you are a lawyer outside of the industry, okay, learn more about the cannabis law, right? So that you can move your talents into the industry, because we need that. If you're in marketing, learn about marketing in the cannabis space, the do's and the don'ts, and what you can do, the laws and what you can do, because you can bring your talents in, but there's certain laws in marketing that you can and cannot do in the cannabis and hemp space, right? Okay. And then, so if you're in advertising, same thing. Okay. If you're in accounting, same thing. Learn the 280E laws, right? So bring your talents over. All too many times, I will see a librarian, right, come in and say, well, you know what? I want to buy land and I want to grow, and has never even potted a plant. Now, I'm not saying that it can't happen. I'm not saying that they can't go and learn, right? Because you can learn anything. We're human beings, right? You can go to school and you can learn how to cultivate, but that is skill, and it is going to take some time. And if you don't have the fortitude, and you don't have the time, and you don't have the commitment and the persistence, right, and the will and the desire to fail, right, then don't do it. Because I'm going to tell you right now, sometimes you're going to lose some crops.
Yep. And
when you lose those crops, you have to have the fortitude, meaning the money, in order to, what we call in the street, re-up, right? In order to start all over again. Because if not, you're out of business already, just as soon as you start, right?
Yeah, just to piggy up on that, Khadijah, is there a major difference for investors out there? Is there a major difference when coming down to invest in a cultivation part of the industry versus a dispensary, or actually selling to actual hand-to-hand business to individuals?
When you say a difference, what do you mean?
Like, as far as, is there going to be a difference in mindset, or is there going to be more investment dollars needed, more or less, when you're dealing? Is there a different shift of mindset when dealing with cultivation versus dispensaries? Or is it pretty much?
Well, let me say this to you. I've not dealt with any investor who has invested in a cultivation or a dispensary. I have, however, dealt with investors who have invested in the real estate that the dispensary or the cultivation has set on. And have benefited by leasing back the property to the dispensary and the cultivation company and charging them monthly rent and profiting from their proceeds every month.
Yeah. So a sale and leaseback program.
Yeah, totally different. So I've never had an investor who actually invested directly in the cultivation or directly in the dispensary. So honestly, I can't answer that question for you.
Got you, Khadijah. And just speaking on as far as sale and leaseback programs, pretty much similar we were speaking about, I think that that's the strongest part of the industry, because now you're not only dealing with the cannabis industry, but you're dealing with the lasting power of the real estate industry.
Absolutely.
And combine those two together, you create an opportunity that can be lasting, that can even go beyond the cannabis industry if needed. So I think that is a successful way. Can you give a little insight on the sale and leaseback programs and how entrepreneurs can get themselves involved with that opportunity?
Absolutely. Well, let me say this first. I have to make this disclaimer according to my attorney. I am not a financial advisor. I'm not a financial broker. I'm not an attorney, and I don't play one on TV or the internet. Okay, I don't give any financial advice or anything like that. I am, however, an accredited investor. And so I can only tell you what I have personally experienced and what I have done or would do as an investor. Okay, so
Absolutely.
What I have experienced on the real estate, the sale and the purchase and the buyback of the programs, right? As it relates to the real estate, I have seen where there are investors who have formed LLCs or who have LLCs who have purchased real estate, right? And they have leased out that real estate to a license holder, okay, who has come in and they have maybe leased out this building, okay? They've leased out the building and maybe they've turned that building, maybe it's vertically integrated license, and they are cultivating. They also have a dispensary, for the retail part of it, and they're also manufacturing. And maybe they're paying rent, but then they're also paying 10% or 5% or 15% of their proceeds as well. It depends on whatever deal that they've come up with, that they've negotiated. It really depends on the deal. And on that type of deal, see, the investor's in good shape. And I'll tell you why. Because of the federal government, and mind you, we don't believe the federal government is going to come in and shut it down. But because they still can, okay? If they do, the investor still has the real estate.
Exactly.
See, we can sell real estate to anybody.
Yep.
So dispensary, cultivation, manufacture, all of that will be shut down. See, we didn't invest in that. We invested in the real estate.
Yeah.
You see, so that's where we decrease our risk. You understand? So
totally understand.
Legally, no one can legally invest in the actual plant. Okay? Not in the actual plant, legally.
The real estate all day.
But the real estate, yeah. Which is why with C.E. Hutton, the three verticals are real estate, biotechnology, and technology. And so when we have companies that send pitch decks that are not related to these three things, and they say, well, they're not doing anything over there. Well, they're not doing anything over there investing in your company because it's not related to those three verticals.
Okay, yep.
Does that make sense?
Total sense.
And this is why I share with entrepreneurs who come in, make sure that you're not just talking to any investor. You want to identify the investor that invests in your vertical.
Yep, 100%. Not just someone who's out there, for someone who's very specific.
That's right. So you won't waste your time or their time.
Great convo, Khadijah. Good insight right there on the sale and leaseback program. I think that's just one of the strong programs that exist out there as far as investment opportunities in the cannabis industry that has a real estate caveat to it. Switching gears a little bit, Khadijah, if you don't mind. As far as stock options, investments, and investing in the cannabis industry from a stock futures perspective. A lot of women, and unfortunately, a lot of women of color, a lot of individuals of color all around, we work really hard, push ourselves at our jobs in whatever particular industries, but for some reason we lack that intellect of diving into the stock market hard. And it could be for a lot of different fears, a lot of different stigmas. And I just want to know, from your perspective, could you let us know a little bit on how individuals can help shed that fear by helping gain some more education about the stock market and allow themselves to get more involved with it? How can they get educated and how can they get more involved?
Absolutely. So one of the companies that I founded is called the Green Street Academy, THE,
Yes.
Green Street Academy, just as it sounds, but you have to put THE in front of it, right?
Mhm.
.com. And so that teaches novice investors what they need to know prior to getting involved in marijuana stocks, because that's what we call it. Cannabis stocks or marijuana stocks, okay? And it teaches you about how and why the industry started. And you need to know that. How and why the stock market started. Because the majority of marijuana stocks are on the OTC, the over-the-counter market, right? They're penny stocks, okay? And penny stocks are not a bad thing. A lot of people, they shy away from it. But did you know that Walmart used to be a penny stock?
Yep.
Yeah, back in 1969 or 68, something like that. They were a penny stock. You think some of the investors were mad that is now on the New York Stock Exchange?
Not at all, especially if they got it for 79 cents.
You know what I'm saying? Right? I mean, think about it. That's crazy. Think about Lionsgate. You know, Lionsgate was a penny stock?
That one I didn't know.
Yeah, Lionsgate was a penny stock. You understand? So there are certain companies at one time that were on a penny stock that eventually move up. Now, does that happen often? You know, does it happen all the time? Not all the time, but it can happen. So there's opportunity there, right? You know, there's a cannabis company that has gone, only one that has gone to the NASDAQ. So at the end of the day, at some point, what most investors are looking for is for marijuana stocks to one day get there. But until that time, you have to educate yourself. You have to learn what you need to learn. I think TD Ameritrade, they have great videos as well. My platform has great videos. We had our videos long before TD Ameritrade had their videos. I think they started getting their videos in 2017, 2018. We had our videos in 2014, 2015, 2016. Then we put some up for 2017, 18. And we're even getting more videos for CBD now, you know, that's going to be posted in there in the next few months. You know, so it's all about re-educating yourself. And sometimes it's really about learning the skill and not being greedy, you know, understanding your risk tolerance. Everybody's risk tolerance is not the same. Understanding that when you invest, only invest the money that you're willing to lose. See, that you're okay with losing. Okay, because at the end of the day, you might lose. I have some investments. Let me tell you something. I have some investments, and get this, James, that I invested in 2014, right? That when my divorce happened, they went bye-bye.
You're right.
And then in 2016, when I started reinvesting, guess what? I still haven't realized a return. But then I have some that I have. Yeah. You understand? I have one stock that I think at the beginning of 2018, I think it was. Yeah, 2018. Man, I got a check for 50 grand. Great. Right? But then I have one stock that I spent like 25 grand. I haven't seen anything, not a high, buy, email, nothing.
Yeah, I say, as we all know, the stock market is a market that rises up and down, very volatile, especially in this current times. However, I do believe that, you know, during COVID-19, when a lot of individuals are out of work, a lot of individuals have some idle time, this is a great time to learn about the stock market, learn about the ins and outs, everything you're saying, the origin of the market. And begin to really understand what your risk tolerance really is and everything in the middle of that. This is the perfect time, because I do believe that as individuals of color and just individuals in general who are timid of the stock market can realize that they can really turn around some great return and actually add the generational wealth for their families in the future.
Yes, absolutely. And let me say this to you. Unapologetically, I say people of color. Let me tell you why. Primarily because we suffered the most.
Yes.
This industry was built on our backs. And yes, we missed out on the oil industry. Okay, creating generational wealth in the oil industry. In fact, a lot of us sold our mineral rights to our land during the oil industry, not understanding what our mineral rights even meant.
Preach.
Okay. And so we missed out on the coffee industry. We missed out on the rice industry. Come on now. I'm talking about big industries we missed out on. And so on the cannabis and hemp industry, we missed out on it. Okay. We didn't even know what was going on when Hearst, Mellon, DuPont, and Harry Anslinger was doing what they were doing. Okay. And so I'm saying we need to re-educate ourselves about how and why cannabis first became illegal in the first place. Why did the preachers, the reverends, the rabbis, okay, why did the priests, why did they tell us to stay away from it? It wasn't because it was bad. It was because we were being killed and put in prison. It was because our men were being taken out of the households. It was because our women were now being put in men's positions. It was now because our men, when they came out of prison, they were stripped from their rights. They couldn't even vote. They couldn't even get jobs. And now they became envious of their wives who were put in their positions. And now they began to fight the disruption of our households. What they put together was working. Are you following me? And it was putting our men in prison. You see, and then the private prison system came alive. You understand? And then the war on drugs came back to life again with this, what is it? Just say no. Are you serious? Come on now. All right. Yeah. Unapologetically, I say, people of color, wake up. Re-educate yourself before you start investing. I don't care if it's $100 in marijuana stocks. Stop listening. Learn about it. Read the hype. Yes, read it. Re-educate yourself. Get educated, especially right now. When I say re-educate, the reason I say re-educate, James, is because we have already been educated with false lies. So re-educate ourselves with the truth.
The truth. Okay?
Learn what you need to learn, gather the skills that you need to gather, and then start investing based on the information that you've learned. Period.
Absolutely. Khadijah, I mean, that's sound advice all around the board. Just to take it down a notch a little bit, right? Get a little smiles out of it.
I get hype. I'm sorry.
We take it down. No, but I think that hype was necessary in order to show the passion that you have, not only for this industry, but for helping others actually gain insight and grow in this industry. Let me ask you, how was cannabis when you were growing up? First of all, where were you raised at?
I was raised in Houston, Texas, brother. Houston, Texas. I am a Houstonian.
Houstonian. Back when you were growing up, how was cannabis spoken about in your household? Was it something that was taboo or was it something that was openly spoken about?
First of all, I grew up in a household that there was no talking about stuff. Those were called my mom's special cigarettes, and I have to be honest with you, brother. I thought I was stealing my mama's special cigarettes, and I ain't gonna lie, I did. And, I had some real terrible experiences like, divorce and domestic violence and witnessing domestic violence and stuff. And so I thought I was stealing her special cigarettes because they smell different from the cool filthy kings, which they don't stink, right? And those other cigarettes, those special ones, man. And then she had those funny colored papers to them too. And so I was like, wow, I'm gonna get me one of them special cigarettes. And then they made me feel a particular way. I was like, yeah, these special cigarettes.
So even though it wasn't spoken about, mom had her stash and you knew how to find that stash.
Man, look here. Okay. It wasn't until I was in my teens or late. It wasn't until I re-educated myself about cannabis, right? That I found out that it was really helping me with nightmares and anxiety and all of this stuff. That was crazy. I didn't even realize that it was helping with that. Yeah.
Same thing for me. I used to have really high levels of anxiety, didn't know how to get rid of it. And honestly, I've never really been popular on wanting to take prescription pills. I always feel like those kind of things just lead to more issues, more problems. I've seen that in my past. But the moment that I started just consume cannabis on a more regular, but more systematic basis, I just found that those anxiety mindsets just toned down tremendously. It really does help with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me ask you, Khadijah, on the last note, where could individuals, because I mean, in a positive sense, you're all over. You're everywhere in a positive sense. So where can individuals learn a little bit more about you, but even more so on ways they can learn a little bit more about stock market, learn a little bit more about just business and entrepreneurialism and how to begin to raise the ranks, whether they're a woman or just whether they're a guy like me who just wants to just learn and understand more?
Absolutely. So feel free to go to my website. It is khadijahadams.com, or you can go to girlgetthat.money. You can also reach me on the gram at Khadijah Adams or on the gram at Girl Get That Money.
Girl, get that money.
That's
Did
money.
you have any last notes or last statements you want to say just for the audience out there listening, and for anyone who's out there who's just really looking for a way to get involved with the cannabis industry, but just don't know how, and just don't know who to speak with on how to get themselves involved with it? What's some last words you have?
Absolutely. And James, I want to say thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate that. And for those of you who are interested in getting involved in the industry, listen, hit me up. I'm excited to help you. Free consultations for everyone who sees this and says, hey, I was referred to you by James on 2B Blunt. I saw you. I will give you a 1 hour free consultation, but you must mention James' name and you must say that you saw me on 2B Blunt in order to receive a free consultation. I will give you a free consultation. Now, if I can help you, I will help you. If I can't help you, then I will refer you out. But do give me a call at 480-269-5811, you guys. And just on a positive note, get in this industry where you fit in, learn the how and the why. But let me tell you, we need to get in this industry as business owners, as entrepreneurs, as employees, or as investors. It does not matter. Now is a time to create generational wealth for our families. Right now is the time. This is the fastest growing industry. Get in where you fit in, because you will miss 100% of the shots that you don't or won't take. And I'm here to tell you, you better take your shot, because I'm taking mine.
Take your shot. Khadijah, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.